and welcome back to twitch.tv/AWS. I'm Abby, getting ready to talk about VPC and networking. Can you guys tell me a little bit about both who you are, what you do at AWS, and then what you guys have launched this week?
Yeah, so my name's Colm. I'm a senior principal engineer. I work on EC2 VPC, our virtual private cloud. And this week we launched Private Link for customers and partners, so that they can now create and manage services and expose them between VPCs. And we launched inter-region peering, so people can now connect their VPCs that are in different regions and have them talk to each other.
Great. And I'm Dave Brown. I'm Director of EC2 Networking.
So can you tell me a little bit about how these announcements, what are people going to use them for? Why did you build what you did?
Oh, absolutely. So I always start back in 2009 when we first built VPC. And at that stage, we had the EC2 Classic network, and we expected customers to create one VPC. And we said, who would need more than a single VPC to build their application? And at the time, you actually had a single VPC limit as well. And what we saw is customers immediately started requesting for more VPCs. And in working with customers, many customers have hundreds or thousands of VPCs today. So it's really become this building block, in terms of API isolation, being able to have a dedicated network for your application has been really useful. So of course, once you have a number of VPCs, the next big problem becomes connectivity between the VPCs. And a couple of years ago, we launched VPC peering. And customers can peer their VPCs together. It was a good solution for many customers. There's two challenges with peering. One, the CIDR ranges cannot overlap, and that becomes a bit of a problem managing CIDRs between VPCs. And secondly, it just is a bit of a difficult to manage in terms of connectivity, and that one VPC has connectivity to everything. So we really started thinking about how could we change connectivity completely. And Private Link came about, where we said, well, could we bring it up a layer into the application layer and say, could a load balancer really be shared with any other VPC privately? Benefiting from the Amazon backbone, so all that traffic's running on the Amazon backbone within the region. It's also completely secure. You're not susceptible to other sort of attacks. And then obviously customers want to be able to peer between regions as well, as they build their applications and take them more global. And that's where inter-region peering came about, really just simplifying connectivity between VPCs.
Awesome. Do you have anything to add?
So I personally probably create dozens of VPCs every week. They're kind of throwaway at this point. It's going to be pretty convenient now to be able to just have them connect to each other and make my life a lot easier too. So we're pretty excited about it. So
what are some things that customers are would use peering for with their kind of real life applications? So I know that people have talked about, Monzo has spoken publicly about how that they use peering to connect their third-party stuff and their AWS stuff. What are some other reasons that people are using peering?
Yeah, so customers can sometimes just have multiple VPCs of their own because there may be a large organization, or they have a VPC for development and a VPC for pre-production and a VPC for production. And sometimes they do need to communicate between them a bit. Sometimes the things that are in pre-production have dependencies that are in production, and they need to be able to talk about each other, and that's a really ideal case for peering. But for service providers and third parties who want to expose services, peering's kind of overkill, and it's too broad a relationship. When you peer two VPCs, those networks are fully connected. There's full bidirectional communication between them, and the networks have to be deconflicted. You can only use distinct, separate IP ranges. There's a lot of overhead to manage there, and so Private Link's really ideal for that case, where you can expose something like a database now. It shows up just as a private IP address inside the customer's VPC, and the customer can even connect to it from their own on-premises, from their own office. It all just works over Direct Connect as well. So, which you can't easily do with peering.
So I have a couple of questions from Twitch. The first one is from GOF 2001. It says, is cross-region supported in CloudFormation right now? Everyone always wants to know about CloudFormation.
Hey, GOF 2001. Great question. Across all of my teams, we work very, very closely with the CloudFormation team. Whenever any release comes out, we always go after them and say, hey, we need to be supporting this. And I think it is. I'm not 100% sure. Okay. But certainly we do try and make sure CloudFormation's there at launch. They're a very popular team. Everybody wants CloudFormation support at launch. I think that's the #1 question I get is, does this have CloudFormation? Exactly. It's just the rate of launches. It's difficult for them to keep up.
I know. We have a lot of launches and only one CloudFormation team, so they try to do it as fast as they possibly can.
Exactly.
So we'll double check on that for you to see if it's supported right now, and if not, I'm sure it'll be very soon.
I believe it is, but we can check.
And then from PS Monkey, we have, will cross-region VPC peering apply to GovCloud as well? Because that actually is the second most frequent question is, but what about GovCloud?
GovCloud. I actually had this question earlier today as well. At this stage, we're still working out how exactly to bring it into GovCloud. Yep. The plan is certainly to support it across every one of our public regions today. At launch today, we have it available in 4 of those regions.
Okay.
And over the coming quarter or so, you expect to see it get to all public regions. GovCloud, we're still working out how exactly do we peer that, given that it's sort of
a little
separate,
harder.
It's a little harder, it's a separate domain. But we definitely have the customer demand, so we're going to have to work out what we do.
So 4 regions now, and hopefully with GovCloud coming in the next quarter or so.
Well,
I have another question. This is you guys are all kinds of Twitch questions today. Says, so peering, so this is a string of numbers and it's a long string, so we're just going to skip it. So peering is something like Direct Connect Lite for individual users. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah, so peering, so Direct Connect is you can provision, with partners, physical links that actually connect into the AWS network and that you connect to your VPC from, your office or a traditional data center. And those networks can now talk to each other full bidirectional communication. We have native support for peering inside VPC. So if you have 2 VPCs, you can peer them, and that's happening virtually using our software-defined network. It doesn't rely on physical links or anything like that. But the networks can now talk to each other, just very similar to Direct Connect in that way.
So Andreas W2000 says, does VPC private link deprecate VPC endpoints? What's the difference? When do I use what?
That's a great question. VPC endpoints was launched and supported today for S3 and DynamoDB. VPC endpoints doesn't put the IP address directly within your VPC. You kind of have private access to the public IP, and that's S3 and DynamoDB today. We expect to be rolling private link out to all of the other AWS services. So we have 5 of them today that have it. We will not be deprecating VPC endpoints. That'll still be available for S3 and DynamoDB. And I believe at some point in the future, you'll see S3 and DynamoDB with private link support as well.
Gotcha.
So we'll continue to support both of those.
Awesome. You guys have so many questions. I can't say people's Twitch usernames, by the way, so make it easier on me, please. Catav says, what latencies are there between Regency, or does it just depend on cross factors?
Okay, so today the communication between regions is on the AWS backbone, and we invest a lot in that. We're probably one of the biggest networks in the world at this stage. And the latency between regions is pretty much dominated by the speed of light, like the physical distance between regions. We're getting links over the shortest paths that we possibly can. If there's mountains in the way, they might have to go around the mountains a bit and so on.
So unfortunately, the AWS networking team cannot get past the speed of light.
Maybe at some point we'll start going through the mountains.
Not yet.
Not right now.
Yeah, but
stay tuned.
But for now, we can't quite break the speed of light barrier.
That's okay. I think we can maybe excuse you on that one. Justin, loads of numbers, says, could you go a little bit further into depth on the overlapping CIDR blocks when connecting? So is there anything that we've done to mitigate that? Is there any way I can get around that?
Absolutely.
A little bit more.
Yeah, so one of the challenges with VPC peering, obviously, is that if you peer VPC A and VPC B, they can't have overlapping IP ranges. They have to be fully deconflicted. With private link, that's not the case. You can have VPC A use 10 dot whatever, and VPC B use 10 dot whatever, and VPC B can have a service running in it on one of those 10 dot IP addresses, exposed as a private link endpoint into VPC A, also on a 10 dot IP. And it makes sense in the context of each of those VPCs. And we have a system called Hyperplane, which Peter talked about on Tuesday, that just makes that work, that glues the 2 networks together and handles all the conflict resolution.
So it's basically a question of context then, that if I use 2 separate VPCs that have a 10 dot et cetera block, then we use context to figure out which VPC that 10 dot
We're able to handle that because we run the network underneath that, so we can kind of make the packets flow in magic ways.
Gotcha. I love magic.
Yeah.
So Ridamek says, could we use private link in conjunction with cross-region VPC peering?
Sure. So not today at launch. They don't quite work together. We do want those to work together. We do want you to be able to use private links in region A and have them reachable from region B and so on. But we would also say, at AWS we have a strong region isolation model. We try to avoid things in region A ever depending on things in region B. We never want any kind of issue in one region to impact multiple regions. That would be disastrous and really impact the resiliency benefit that people get. There's also data sovereignty concerns and so on. Like if somebody's using region A and they need their data to stay there, then they don't want it to leak to another region. But so it will work, but it's not something we would recommend as a default. We would always try to get people to use private link services that are in their own region. And in fact, we go a little bit further. The way private link is architected, we try to keep all the data even in the same zone where possible.
Yep.
Well, it kind of gets rid of I feel like one of the big cases for having like a backup region is what happens when one region goes down. And it will be such a bummer if one went down and then you fell over to your back over region, and then you were like, oh, but just kidding, look at all my dependencies that are now also
Exactly,
down.
and with cross-region peering, as Colm's saying, we're giving you a lot of power, right?
Yeah.
We can really send that information, the data between regions. We do need to be careful. You've got to think about regional isolation when you use this feature and make sure that they're still going to be highly available.
So use your power responsibly, like with anything else.
Exactly.
You're getting a lot of access.
Exactly.
You can do a lot of really cool things with this, but use it responsibly. Don't interconnect your regions, just like you hopefully wouldn't connect your services directly.
If you do, be very aware of it. There are cases where it makes sense, right? Like maybe you've got an analytics tool or something that's not production critical. Like if it goes down in multiple regions, it's not going to impact your business. And use cases like that make sense.
So it looks like a kind of a follow-up question here is, so how should I think about architecting with both peering and private link? Do you guys have some recommendations that we could take away?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see what customers do, right? Today, the only connectivity you've had is peering, and customers have used that for kind of all use cases. My hope is that a lot of those use cases are now solved by private link, and that private link becomes sort of, I want applications to speak to each other in a service-oriented or microservice architecture, just use private link. So I think we're going to see a lot of peered VPCs be replaced with private link. That said, I think there's still a place for peering. So I think customers should still use that when they need to have that full network mesh between two VPCs.
So if you need the full connection between the two, still go with peering, and if you just want to be able to access maybe one resource with a private IP, go with Direct Connect.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we've taken a bunch of questions from Twitch. Is there anything that we haven't asked about, that they haven't asked about, that you really think people should know about both peering and Direct Connect?
So one of the big parts that we announced with the introduction of inter-region peering is we're encrypting all the traffic between regions. There are actually some slightly hidden benefits to that. So it's always been possible to encrypt your own traffic between regions. You can run a VPN, like a software VPN in region A and have it connect to region B and so on. But one of the challenges with that is, although your traffic's encrypted, your IP addresses are still in the clear, and that can be measured. And so somebody, if they're looking at the traffic, they could tell you're having a busy day, you're having a quiet day, and that might be business-sensitive information. We're actually doing bulk encryption. We encrypt all the traffic. It's anonymized. It all just looks like noise, and so it's just a little bit more robust. And you can still layer your own encryption on top of it. You can still use TLS and SSH and so on top of the encryption that we're providing.
I have one more question from Twitch. It looks like, will cross-region VPC peering also work cross-account? So a dev in US East 1 to QA in US West 1?
Yeah, so all of our peering connections work cross-account, and so it will, yes.
Short answer, yes. All peering cross-account. So that was an easy answer for everybody.
And private link also works cross-account as well.
Private
Super
link
important.
Also. There you go.
Yeah.
So that was an easy and very positive answer to everyone's question. So I believe that is the last question I see from Twitch. Oh, that's not true. Sorry, I lost my question from Twitch. What about routing like client VPN between peered VPCs?
Client VPN between peered VPCs.
There's no elaboration on that question, so if you guys can't make sense of it, we'll skip.
So once two VPCs are paired with each other, it is there's no need to run a VPN between them at that point. They have all the full bidirectional communication. In terms of if you want to use a VPN to talk to multiple VPCs, it's best to just have your VPN go to VPC A and to VPC B.
Yeah.
You can't use peering to have all that work
Seems
together.
like more connection than I'd want anyway, that I'd rather have my VPN connect separately my different regions instead of just being like, let's talk to
big
everything
mesh.
in one giant blob. So it looks like the last question, other than a bunch of YubiKey input that people are smushing on the keyboard, which I do the same thing all the time. So I think that's the end of our Twitch questions. Oh, well, that's not true. How do partners play in private link?
Absolutely, yeah. So obviously with this technology allowing you to essentially host a service and then make it privately available inside a customer's VPC, we've had a number of partners very interested. So we've launched with about 15 to 20 partners today, and if you go have a look, a number of them launched release press releases, including Snowflake and Cisco. And so in the AWS Marketplace, there's also going to be a whole partner section available where you'll be able to go in, use an application that you're familiar with over private link, and essentially have that application available privately inside your VPC.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so really, really great.
Final question, do we use any compression between regions?
A simple answer, no. That in general would not be secure. So there are actually security problems if you start introducing compression.
Awesome, that sounds fun. Cool, so that is all on the questions from Twitch today. Thank you so much for listening. Guys, thank you so much for joining us.
It was great.
Really excited about it.
Go and use the features.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Available now.